Hey guys, we're here at Science Freedom, Florida. I'm out in my car again, putting the little ones to bed, and I don't really want to keep them up, so decided to come out here for a little bit of privacy. It's a little more comfortable here than in the garage. So here I am. Tonight we're going to start off by talking about the biology textbook, the new textbook that they adopted back in February with a big board meeting that I've covered in several videos when I first began this journey. And we're going to start a pretty thorough examination of it wherever it covers evolution. I got a lot of pages to go through, so I hope you'll stay tuned. You may not watch this live, you may watch it later on. That's fine. Feel free to leave comments. I'm actually going to leave screenshots of the pages that I'm going over in the comments, and then those who are part of Science Freedom Florida group, you're going to actually see a write-up of this that I did a while back, and I'm going to be following that outline pretty closely. And I've got a paper here that I'm going to be kind of sticking to as an outline for these first few, the ones that I did the write-up on. So anyway, see a couple of people jumping on here, and that's great. We might have a couple more later on, and then we'll have a lot of people joining us after the live video is over with. So anyway, welcome to the examination of the newly adopted indoctrination tool. The biology textbook for Clay County schools. Remember, according to the superintendent, it's not about what's right, it's about what's legal. And those are his ideas from the school board meeting back in February. So the textbook starts off getting students used to thinking of evolution as a fact of nature. Remember, the state standards, you're not supposed to do that. The state standards, we're supposed to keep evolution as a theory. It's not the same thing as a fact or a law. But right here at the very beginning, the textbook is going to start off by just talking about evolution as if it's a fact of life. So take a look at this first page here. We're in chapter 1. This is the introduction to the whole book. Okay, so we're just getting students used to the idea of everything related to biology. This is introducing the biology class. And so they're going to start off on page 12 here with evolution, describing evolution. And they say, main idea, evolution explains the unity and diversity of life. Evolution, definition, is the change in living things over time. More specifically, evolution is a change in genetic makeup of a subgroup or population of a species. The concept of evolution links observations from all levels of biology, from cells to the biosphere. A wide range of scientific evidence, including the fossil record and genetic comparisons of species, shows that evolution is continuing today. So, first of all, we get the standard deflection definition, and you hear this all the time. All we mean when we say evolution is just change over time. It's really just about changes within a population or species. And they use this to ease people into, especially students, into the idea of evolution. Evolution is true because it's just changes in populations. It's just these little small changes that everybody sees or whatever. And so everybody gets real easy and they start accepting this, and then bam, suddenly millions of years and we all came from a single-celled organism from a pool of slime and monkeys. And, ape-like creatures, because they're real precise about that for some reason. But anyway, they want us to get the idea that evolution is an observed fact. And so they give us this nonsense definition that they know that's not what they mean, and we know that's not what they mean, but students might not yet know that that's what they mean. What they really mean is that evolution is this millions of years process. We all came from a common ancestor, from a pool of slime, and that's what the fight's about, because that's simply not true. There's nothing true about that. When you get into this definition here, they really kind of give you a hint of that in the last sentence. If you look, it says a wide range of scientific evidence, including the fossil record. And that's a big one. We're going to touch a lot on the fossil record as we go through these pages, but the fossil record is not what they want to be. It does not help them. It is completely useless to them. It ends up being a circular argument and showing that animals just died. But we'll talk more about that. But what I want to touch on is that paleontology is both biology and geology and related to other fields of study. I bring this up because many times I have discussed or seen debates where evolutionists tries to isolate biology and says, well, evolution is just biology. It doesn't have anything to do with the other disciplines. I was talking to a biology teacher the other day, and I brought up this idea, how are you teaching evolution? And she said, well, it's true. And I started asking questions about physics, and her response was, what does physics have to do with evolution? And I'm just flabbergasted that she was not educated enough to even know that the sciences are all connected, and especially all of them are founded on physics. If the physics is not true, none of the rest of it even matters. You can't even study biology if there's no physics. It's just not possible, because the biological stuff is built on the chemical stuff, and the chemical stuff is built on the physics. And if the physics isn't true, then you're just making stuff up and telling stories. And so that just blew my mind that somebody would say that. So anyway, here in the textbook, when it is advantageous, they connect all the sciences, attempting to show the students that there is unity among all the fields supporting evolution with evidence. So when it works for them, suddenly everything's connected. When it doesn't work for them, oh, well, this is just biology. Those other fields don't have anything to do with it. But that unity does not exist. I've showed a number of times through physics that physics just doesn't support it, but it's not there in any of the disciplines. There's no interconnectedness. When we talk about evolution, there's just some circular arguments and things that kind of sound like they fit together, but you're talking about, it's like taking a bunch of Kincaid paintings and then making puzzles out of them, and then taking like 10 of those and putting all the puzzle pieces into the same box. They all look like they go together because, Thomas Kincaid used a certain style and colors or whatever, but they don't fit. They just don't fit together. So, let's see here. The slippery slope of their fake definition continues on down the page. So they get to talking about adaptation. So I'm going to read this section to you. Adaptation. One way evolution occurs. See, there's nothing there about one way that scientists think that evolution may occur. No, one way evolution occurs, taught as fact, right there, is through natural selection of adaptations. In natural selection, a genetic or inherited trait helps some individuals of a species survive and reproduce more successfully than other individuals in a particular environment. An inherited trait that gives an advantage to individual organisms and is passed on to future generations is an adaptation. Over time, the makeup of population changes because more individuals have the adaptation. Two different populations of the same species might have different adaptations in different environments. The two populations may continue to evolve to the point at which they are different species. One way evolution occurs. No wording here at all to address that it's just a theory. So this book is teaching it as fact. I don't care what they say, this book is teaching it as fact, and it is ridiculous. So just right on into it, explaining to these young, impressionable minds who've been taught to accept everything a teacher says as if it's absolute truth without question, that this is how evolution happens. And in this one little paragraph, there is so much to, man, we got a lot of people coming on. This is great. But we got so much to cover in just this one paragraph. First of all, adaptations are not genetic mutations by default. That's not what an adaptation is. An adaptation is existing genetic material. It already is there. They even talk about it. It's an inherited trait. An inherited trait is one that already exists, and so it's not a mutation. And if that already exists, then all natural selection does is it's just an environmental pressure, and it's based on that information that's already there. So there's no changing of anything. As the environment shifts one way or the other, the population will adapt to survive the change. As the environment shifts back, the animal adapts back to the original state. And there are multiple examples of this. One of them actually was shown to be fraudulent, but there were these moths that were studied out in Europe that before the Industrial Revolution, they were supposed to be all white. And the black ones that showed up from time to time were easier to spot, so they got eaten. And then you had the Industrial Revolution came along, and supposedly the black ones could hide in all the soot, and all the white ones got eaten up. And then when the environmentalist wackos got a hold of everything, they got rid of all the soot and all the dirt, and suddenly the black ones got eaten all up, and the white ones could survive better, and they went right back. But the problem is the white and the black coloring are both already present in the DNA. There was no change that took place within the DNA. It's just in terms of breeding, which of the two potential offspring would survive. Now, again, this one was proved fraudulent, but they're still teaching it. There's a butterfly museum here in Florida that we went to back in the spring, and they still had it up as if it's true, but it was false. And so they're relying on all these shenanigans and these false stories. But anyway, that would be an example of what adaptation might look like if it had been a true story. Genetic mutations are vastly toward the detrimental in animals, and the few that are beneficial are losses of information. So let me point out that something that is a genetic mutation that is beneficial in a specific context is actually detrimental in every other way. And the evolutionists love to go to bacteria and them becoming resistant to medicines. They just love going to that as, oh, there's proof of evolution. Look, they've evolved to be resistant to the medicine. They lost genetic information. That's not genetic mutation in the sense of adding new information, okay, which is what the one single cell to here we are kind of evolution needs. There's no addition of new information. They lost the ability to connect to the medicine, so they're resistant to the medicine. But that loss of information also makes them susceptible in any other environment. And so it's not a beneficial change at all in the way of helping them survive. So, yes, I'm in the driveway. I wanted to come out here so I didn't wake the kids up. My wife is asking me where I'm at. So, fun part about being in the live streaming thing. So, anyway, let's head on with some more of this. The amount of genetic mutation needed to get from a single ancestor to today's complexity and diversity of life is absurdly huge when considering the overwhelming number of harmful mutations. 4.5 billion years is not enough, and neither is 13.7 billion years. It's just, you just don't have enough time when you consider that most of those mutations are harmful. The evolutionists don't want to talk about those. They don't want to talk about the ratio of harmful to the allegedly beneficial. Oh, you're laughing at me now. Okay, I see how it is. Anyway, natural selection. This is the third point here. Natural selection does not actually cause change. All right, I want you to understand that. Natural selection cannot cause change. It only addresses what is already in the genetic code. All right, so natural selection does not actually cause change. The change must already exist for natural selection to work. A man named Hugo de Vries put it, natural selection may explain the survival of the fittest, but it cannot explain the arrival of the fittest. And that's the thing that the evolutionists will never be able to explain. They've got all this circumstantial, circular evidence that they want us to believe, like the fossil record and comparative analysis and stuff, but they don't actually have the mechanism necessary to get us the genetic information that we need. They say it's genetic mutation, but genetic mutation cannot account for it because 99.999% genetic mutation is devastating and or neutral. It means there's no new information, and so that's not the vehicle for how to get from a single cell to here we are. Oh my goodness, my wife. This is going to be fun doing it live because she's going to get on here and derail me every time. So I love you too, sweetheart. Yes, you're totally throwing me off. You threw off my groove. I'm like the Emperor Kuzco now. Appreciate it. But I'm not going to throw you off the ziggurat. Anyway, if two populations adapt to their environment so that there's observable differences, let's say a beak shape, okay, how does this preclude mating between the two populations? In other words, you got some finches out on these islands and stuff, and they start to adapt to changes in the environment. How does that, unless it's directly related to a reproductive change, how does that somehow stop them from being able to reproduce with each other? Isolation by geography is not the same as mating incompatibility. In fact, Darwin's famous finches are not even agreed to be separate species by all the biological community. And I've got a link for that to Discover Magazine that I'll try to remember to post up in the comments as well. So why don't they put that into the textbook? I mean, all the cards on the table, and it's not because the kids can't understand it either. It doesn't have anything to do with, the kids just can't handle all of the information, or the information's too complex. No, that's pretty simple right there. That's something that most people are going to be able to understand. Why don't they put that in there? And the answer is because they're trying to indoctrinate these kids to believe this nonsense. All right, one of my favorites here is the word species. The word species itself is hugely problematic. In chapter 10 in the book, on page 286, the word species is defined as a group of organisms that are closely related and can mate to reproduce fertile offspring. So why is this a problem? Well, got a couple of words for you. Ligers, wolfins, you got every kind of dog, coyote, fox, whatever. They're all able to interbreed and do half-breeds. Wolves with dogs, all of the dog-looking animals can interbreed with fertile offspring. Horses with donkeys, z-donks, the zorses, you name it. They just go on and on. Okay, I know. It's funny. I'm playing devil's advocate here. It's Blue Devils, though. It's my old school shirt. Leave me alone. So anyway, the supposed dividing line for species is the ability to not just reproduce, but reproduce fertile offspring. In other words, their offspring can reproduce. So I can give example after example after example of different species, even different genuses, that are capable of reproducing and producing fertile offspring. So the definition of species is even kind of out the window. It's a man-made construct that is not precise at all. Yeah, okay, now I'm just making up words. So anyway, most of the taxonomy, animal classification, is based entirely on what is called phenotype, what they look like. Phenotype is what an animal looks like to us. We look and says it has wings, it has claws, it has teeth, it has a backbone. Those are phenotype. Genotype is when we get down and we start studying the genetic parts of it, the analysis of the DNA and stuff. The genotype analysis has only been around for a little while. The phenotype, we've been looking at animals since the dawn of time, about 6,000 years ago, but I'm not allowed to say that in public schools. Anyway, so we have animals separated from plants, backboned animals separated from not backbone, bird from mammal, and so on. Those are phenotypes. When we get down to the genus, the lines of separation are getting very fine. Within a genus, there are species, groups of animals that are very similar, i.e. finches, but that allegedly can't reproduce fertile offspring between each type of animal or plants or whatever. Except that they can. They do. There's examples of them. You put the Darwin's finches from one island to another island, you put them together, and guess what? They can reproduce. Yes, yep, I covered those. Thank you. Madison, Heather, yes. Zorses are a great example of those. Yep. Z-donks, zorses, there is a huge list of what are called hybrid animals. And the hybrid animals are all over there. In fact, Jurassic World, if you look at the Jurassic World, of course, they're doing it through artificial genetic manipulation, but they're doing hybrid animals all over the place. Yep, Napoleon Dynamite, ligers. That's where I think I first heard of them, in fact, and really just kind of blew my mind that they would be put in such a famous movie. But anyway, Many examples exist of not only fertile offspring coming from interspecies mating, but intergenus breeding also occurs. Bottlenose dolphins and false killer whales have produced fertile offspring. Wolves, coyotes, dogs, and foxes are all interrelated and can breed fertile offspring. Don't get me started on the cat family and those finches. So at the bottom of the page, the textbook asserts, and this is the last little thing here, and this is going to be plants. At the bottom of the textbook page, it asserts that the orchid somehow evolved to look like an insect to attract other insects to it so that the insects can pollinate and help the orchid reproduce. All right. How does that happen? How does a plant evolve to look like something? In what way or by what process can that even take place? Did it pollinate before that so that it survived long enough to evolve and survive as the fittest? Why is its evolutions considered the fittest when other orchids did not evolve this new look and still seem to be surviving just fine? How does one evolve a look that happens to resemble exactly what it needed to attract the bugs? Did another mutation lead to an orchid that looked like an elephant's nose and that just didn't work out? No mechanisms are ever presented, just the assertions. So if natural selection favored the orchid that looked like a bug, what specific genetic changes brought it to this current version from its last version? If science is about observation and repeatability, okay, that's key. If it's about repeatability and observation, which is their mantra against creationists, then they need to demonstrate the change in an observable fashion. Otherwise, it's just an assertion that assumes that evolution is true from the get-go, and all we get is a circular argument. Okay, folks, this is just one page. I have 100 pages to examine. All right, and most of these are probably going to be broken up. So I'll post this up as a video. Or the page under the video here pretty soon, and that link that I linked to, and hopefully if people have questions, they're going to start a conversation under this. You can do it on my page. Those of you who are in Science Freedom Florida in the group, you're welcome to ask questions there. I'm going to figure out one day how to get these up on YouTube so I can keep posting them up there and get a wider audience as well. One last shout out. Again, it's election time. School board elections for Clay County are up, and Ashley Gilhousen and Betsy Condon and Miss Williams. It's late, and it's Latanya. I'm sorry, Latanya Williams are both. Yeah, it's just brain fart. I'm so tired. They are all running for re-election. Latanya is new. That's why I'm not as familiar with her name. She's a nice lady, though. I've talked to her a couple times and was able to go out and wave signs with her yesterday with my daughter. But I've spoken with Ashley and Betsy on numerous occasions over the past 4 years because they've already been on the school board and have done a wondrous job. But all three of these ladies are up for re-election with Latanya, I think I said Williams. That's my boss's name. Latanya Peterson. Man, it's going to be a long night. Anyway, these three ladies are running for the school board, and they need you to get out and vote for them. The women that are running against them are not nice people. They are against school choice. They're against charter schools like the one I'm working at now. They have no interest in the students thinking critically in the classroom. They don't want them asking questions. They are right spot on with the whole, you're going to learn what we tell you to learn, and you can't bring up science in the classroom if it goes against what the government wants you to believe. So Latanya Peterson and the Ashley Gilhousen. Nope, my wife is here, so.
Well, I'm going to show you. Hey. I'm going to show you how to save the video. You only have one shot at doing it.
Oh, you only have one shot? Okay.
Yeah, to save a live video.
Okay.
When you click finish, there'll be a box to check save to your phone, and that's the only time you can save it to your phone.
Oh, for the YouTube thing.
And then you can put it on YouTube.
See, she's an expert. She knows what she's talking
well,
about.
only because I'm taking a class, a social media class.
Oh, a social media class. So she knows more than me on that. So anyway, all right, cool. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. We're going to sign off here. I appreciate everybody watching. Hello, my wife, beautiful, way better looking. I should get her to just like pose and be her face and my voice. And then...
Oh, I can lip sync.
And then we get everybody watching. So anyway, yeah, no, you cannot discuss it in class at all. They won't let you bring it up. Go back and watch the it's like at the very end. Kill my Greek. All right, so I was having connection problems, but yeah, Eli, go look at the February 2nd board meeting, like right towards the very end of it, maybe the last 20 minutes or so. And the superintendent just flat out says, yeah, if it's not promoting evolution, if it's not part of the curriculum that we've already selected, which is evolution, you can't bring it up in the classroom. So it's crazy. But anyway, Latanya Peterson, Ashley Gilhausen, Betsy Condon, go vote. Miss Peterson, I'm sorry I got your name wrong. I'm wiped out. It's a long weekend. I'll get it right in future videos. But please go out and vote and educate yourselves, and please ask questions. I love having this conversation with anybody who is willing to discuss the science behind it. And we can even get into the Bible parts if y'all want to talk about that, because I know about that part too. So y'all have a great night, and keep on learning.